Let's pull up this story from Town Hall from March 9th, my birthday just past week.
Oh, my.
Russia
Happy
funneled.
birthday.
Oh, thank you. Russia funneled cash to anti-fossil fuel climate extremists. 2018 report. They say as the cost of a gallon of gas continues to break state and national records, many are criticizing President Biden for taking an energy-independent United States and putting the country in the position of relying upon foreign powers to meet American consumers' demand. In addition to the pain being felt by Americans at the pump, it's also become clear that being energy dependent is a national security liability when foes around the world, such as Russia, China, Iran et al., get antsy or start an all-out war. Conservatives rightly point to radical environmentalists, unhinged anti-fracking and anti-pipeline activists, and Democrat officials, including Biden, Schumer, Pelosi, Sanders, and AOC, as the driving force behind anti-fossil fuel protests. They go on to say, just a few years ago, through a congressional investigation into Russian interference in U.S. politics, revealed evidence that Russia had a role going back more than a decade now in the radical campaign to get the U.S. and other Western countries to shift away from fossil fuels, a goal much like one of Biden's Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm stated last week. Now, the first thing I want to say is I'm very skeptical when it comes to the Russian collusion, the Russia influence and stuff. But it's fair to say we know that Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, even smaller countries are constantly playing these propagandistic moves. My question is, as we're learning about this, is it actually that severe? Is Russia actually having an impact in the United States to the point where it's going to cause us to become energy dependent? Or is it marginal?
Well, I'm not sure what effect Russia's having on it, but it is very telling which side of this issue they're on. Because they're not exactly interested in America's long-term success.
They want us to buy their oil.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. So when it was Russia with Trump, right? What was the incentive for wanting him in there, right? There was no incentive for them to want Trump to be the next president.
Yeah, it made no sense.
Right? It made no sense. But this,
in fact, there was an incentive for them not to want him to be president.
But this there is real incentive there.
They want us to buy their oil, and we did. The moment Trump gets out, we go from being a net exporter to importer.
That's right.
Yeah, we were energy independent, and we should be energy dominant. We should be the number one. Look, y'all are way too young to remember. I was around in 1973 when the Saudis taught us about oil embargoes.
Yep.
And you talked about in some of your talks earlier about somebody wants to relive or bring back the oil export ban. And we're saying, look, that means jobs. I actually voted for that in 2015. In December 2015, got beat up for it a little bit. But we want to be sure we export bans. Russia disinformation was happening in the campaign earlier. We all know that. It's just the Democrats had brought that out. Listen, what they took to the FISA court, some of those activists in the FBI, my son's an FBI agent, as I said earlier, almost all of them great, but there was a few activists at the top of the chain there in the FBI. What they did by lying to a federal court, the FISA court, if you and I brought information to a federal, any kind of court, and signed off that it was right, they knew it wasn't.
Right.
We would be under the jailhouse. So that Russia collusion is kind of stuck in people's craw for a long time. But when we discovered this in 2017, Lamar Smith and I wrote a letter, right, then to Steve Mnuchin, Secretary of the Treasury, and said, look, there's some money laundering going on here. You need to check into it. And there's a lot of facts that show shell companies in Bermuda that have been moving money over into Sierra Club, for example, Sea Change. There's a whole bunch of clubs that get them. I could go down the list. I've got a list here in my notes. And they literally are funding some of the stuff going on over there. That's a fact. You can't deny it.
And look at this photo that Town Hall has. Look at that smile as Joe Biden shakes the hand of Vladimir Putin. Well, that proves it.
Yeah.
That proves they're colluding.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
this is what they did so much of with Trump.
Oh, absolutely.
They
I love their
Trump
facial
next to
expressions.
Putin. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
no,
like
I
Biden
know.
just looks like smiling like an idiot, and
like the
Putin
Joker.
just looks
Look at his-
really.
Actually,
Smirk.
well, hold
Yeah,
on.
Putin looks like he's like, I got
No,
this
hold
guy.
on. Joe Biden looks like Beavis.
He actually does.
Oh,
He does.
Come on, man.
Did you see that one video?
Come on, butthead,
He
man.
does. He looks like Beavis.
There was that one video of Trump shaking Putin's hand and like pulling him in.
Yeah.
Oh, he does
did
that.
with Putin,
Yeah, he does that.
He would shake their hand and then pull everybody.
Yeah, like assert your dominance. That's not what's happening there.
Who
But-
was the one person? I think Trudeau, like pushed his leg out and then didn't let Trump do it, and then all the left was like, "Yeah, go Trudeau," and they were cheering or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder what they're thinking about him today.
Yo,
I wonder
Well,
what
they-
those same truckers think.
they still keep defending people like that. So I think it's fair to point out, as we previously mentioned, Putin has a real reason to incentivize the United States to get off of fossil fuels so that we become dependent upon them.
It's not hard to know.
We also have natural gas in Europe as well. Has there been any indication that they're doing similar practices in Europe?
Oh, absolutely. The actual campaign went against fossil fuels in terms of fracking, in terms of LNG. Everything they did in Europe and they're doing over here. Now, my district, as you know, exports LNG, and they look for 20-year contracts. And so when they contract with a country like Poland and some of the others, it's a long-term contract. Putin is seeing that. He doesn't want that.
LNG is a bit esoteric. So just once again, for anyone who's
liquefied natural gas.
Yeah.
Well, something that's really
real quick. That's Nord Stream 2, right? They're doing liquefied natural gas from Russia to Germany.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is the CEO of Nord Stream 2 is a friend of, who knew? Putin, one of his confidants.
Yep.
Right, and even of Gazprom, one of the top officials of Gazprom is a friend of Putin's.
I think they have ties back to not the 90s when they were together in the mayor's office.
Right.
I gotta ask you about Joe Biden and Burisma. I mean, you seem to be one of the experts on energy, if not the expert. And so you take a look at what's happening with Donald Trump, Ukraine Gate, Burisma, Hunter Biden, now the laptop story.
Yeah.
My view of this, because I've been following these stories for almost a decade with the Qatar Turkey pipeline, Syria, Assad, and of course the U.S. the West wanting to offset Russia's control of natural gas through Ukraine.
You got gas coming through Israel. You could come up through Cyprus, and there's a lot of discussion about that too.
So. What's is there something going on? Was there something going on with the U.S. Burisma in attempting to shut down Russia's control with gas?
That's one thing I'm not familiar with. I started first hearing about that with the Biden thing when literally Joe Biden, Hunter Biden. And by the way, I know they're concerned because with Ukraine in a heck of a mess it is now. I mean, does that mean Hunter Biden's salary's getting cut by them?
But any investigation about that was shut down.
His check bounced.
Right.
And look, Joe Biden, he did this on a video. He said, I told them that if they didn't fire this guy that was investigating that company, he said, they don't get the $1 billion.
That's right.
And SOB, bleep. What do you know? 6 hours later, he was fired.
Yep.
It really does feel to me like, I think there's NATO's interest in getting cheaper gas into Europe. And then I feel like Biden was looking to wet his whistle. He thought, hey, look, here's my opportunity. It's in the U.S. interest to do this, but I'm going to make some money off it.
Germany's really intertwined in all this too.
Yeah.
They have this Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, and they are affiliated with Democratic Socialists, and they have an office in New York. And they hold these training sessions on how to
protest pipelines and fracking and the whole 9 yards.
And they also they team up with Sea Change and the Sierra Club. So then there's this guy, Ben Beachy, who works for the Sierra Club. Who's he meeting with on the Hill lately? AOC, Jayapal, all of them. And then you go to his social media, he's at every single Antifa protest. Every single one.
I wonder if AOC, is aware of what the ramifications of her advocacy would mean. I like to shout out Greta Thunberg. Everyone's, how dare you? Because she has that quote where she said, we don't want to wait until 2030 or 2023. We want to end fossil fuels now. How many people would you estimate will die overnight if we immediately just shut off fossil fuels? 60 million?
Oh my gosh. Just think of the cold winters up north. And New York doesn't, by the way, the state of New York doesn't buy LNG from America. They buy it from Russia.
Wow.
Really? They do. We call it the dirty Putin gas.
Wait. So now that we've banned imports from Russia, New York is in trouble.
That you would sure hope so. You betcha. You can't trust the Biden administration. They may have carved out an exception. You know what I mean? But think about it. And not only that, but we generate electricity with it in the South. So people could die from no air conditioning in the South in the summertime when it's 100 degrees.
Diabetics instantly because insulin has got to be refrigerated.
That's right.
People can't drive to work. Food spoils.
Oxygen,
absolutely.
hospitals.
Well, oxygen, those who are on dialysis
Yeah.
machines.
Yep.
Instantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
They did.
I don't think the squad gets it, and I told my wife that we ought to call them the odd squad, and she said, "Don't tell people that." Okay.
I love it.
So
You just did.
So if you want to see that, it's RandyWeber.org.
He always does what he's not supposed to do.
I'm not supposed to say they're the odd
That's what
squad.
I'm saying. Yeah.
But I really do wonder if I I'm of the opinion that Ocasio-Cortez absolutely knows people will die, and she doesn't care. I genuinely, because these are not the kind of people that would come on a show like this and actually have a sit down conversation about those things. She's not the kind of person. I mean, look, when she told the story on January 6th, when she told the story of January 6th, she completely fabricated it. And just I have to tell everybody every time this comes up. But she said there's a knock on her door, and then she went in the bathroom and she heard someone say, "Where is she?"
Yeah.
And she thought to herself, they made it in. The issue was that incident happened an hour before anyone breached the Capitol building.
Her office is in our building, just so you know. So her office is in our building.
No, for sure.
Didn't happen at all the way.
But what happened was when conservatives pointed that out, the media said, yes, but there are tunnels. So AOC being scared was reasonable. And I said, no, it wasn't, because her story happened a full hour before anyone even knew the building was going to be breached.
Yeah.
Which means there's no possible way she was in her office thinking to herself, they made it here. She made that up.
Unless she was colluding with those who were
not
breaking
only
it.
that,
Absolutely.
The only tunnel they could have gotten through the Capitol would be the Cannon Tunnel, which was immediately the first thing they shut down. So
Right.
not true.
Yeah.
So the whole story is fabricated, and when you hear things like that, I just assume she makes things up. So it's possible that she doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to climate, and she's just saying whatever she needs to say.
That's
also,
what I believe.
But it's also possible she's completely aware of what it would mean to just shut off fossil fuels and do what she's planning on doing. I mean, the whole Green New Deal. Look, when the Green New Deal was first being proposed, it was a bit vague. It was this idea of government investing in green energy. And I, in my opinion, I'm like, that sounds fantastic. American energy independence through renewable doesn't say, we're not talking about getting rid of fossil fuels. We're talking about bolstering our technology, maybe even fusion power. What did we get? The bill was social justice, free college, free healthcare, and get rid of farting cows.
Well, she's the boss, Tim. Mm-hmm. You remember that? No one else is proposing ideas. I'm the boss right now.
Oh, right.
But you know what she did that was smart that like Republicans I don't seem to always do is that she messaged it and messaged it and messaged it when she had no power. She was a freshman in Congress, right?
Right.
She got it in the minds of every single person out there through the young people and all. And then now they had to do something with it. So it has evolved over time. And that's why organizations like Rosa Luxemburg Foundation and these people that are doing this propaganda are latching onto that and filling that with terrible substance because she doesn't have it on her own.
I just want to say, I feel like if you took the average American who votes Democrat and just sat them down with, say, you, Randy, and AOC, they'd be voting Republican after half an hour.
Or they'd be calling him racist and not listening.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
There are
culty
people who just want to fit in. I'm talking about your regular working class person who says, I need to feed my kids.
Fair enough.
Conversations like this, we don't see them. These people don't come on the show. We've invited many people on the left. It's hard to get. What we end up getting is mock offers from leftist personalities who want to just troll us. Sometimes we do have more left-leaning personalities who are willing to come on the show, and they'll argue with us. But for the most part, it's a very serious concern. Greta Thunberg said, shut down fossil fuels right now. That would result in 60 million or so dead. What's your proposal? You never get an answer to those questions because they're not willing to answer them on these shows. I don't think they're genuine people, which is why I say, you take a regular person, you take AOC, you take Randy, you put them in a room, and they're going to walk out and be like, I didn't get any answers from the left.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. From the perspective of these left-wing activists, they have no reason to justify any of their positions. They're just correct, as was summarized by AOC when she said people will criticize you for being factually inaccurate when you're morally correct.
Oh, yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. So are you saying, when you say the lefties won't come on, so Chris Cuomo hasn't accepted your invitation to come on?
Well, I would assume, first of all, with Chris Cuomo, he's probably too big. You know, he doesn't care. He's getting paid millions of dollars, and now he's doing a suit, and we're not fans of his. He probably wouldn't want to come on just because, you know, we've been, you know, very, very, like, opposed to him. But
well, and you're telling things like it is.
Right.
People ought to be. Did I mention people ought to be sharing this program?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I'll give you a really good example. Yeah. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks or Anna Kasparian, for instance. I understand they do their own show. It's a fair point to say they have no time to come out here to the East Coast and come on our show when they do their own show. Yeah. However, they go out of their way often to misrepresent our views and lie about us. Just today, the Daily Beast wrote a fake story about Tulsi Gabbard as well as me. It was Jared Holt, who used to work for Right Wing Watch. He just wrote a fabricated narrative falsely accusing us of pushing a Q conspiracy about biolabs in Ukraine, when all we did here on the show was say, wow, Victoria Nuland testified before the Senate that she was concerned about these biolabs. And then they try and make it seem like we're pushing weird conspiracies about Vladimir Putin stopping weapons or something, which we never did. And so so we've invited Jared Holt on the show several times. He won't do it. He won't come on the show. And I think it's because he knows he will be absolutely eviscerated in terms of the facts.
I'll be at it. Yeah.
They're able to stand in their ivory tower shouting down lies to the masses. They have no reason to come here and be proven wrong.
And Victoria Nuland was a holdover from Obama, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so she testified Ukraine has biolabs, and there's a fear that if Russia gets a hold of them, there could be problems. And that's what we said. In fact, what we did say as well was we said the maps showing Russian attacks and biolabs don't even sync up. And yet the Daily Beast publishes a story accusing Tulsi Gabbard, me, Tucker Carlson, of pushing lies in line with the Kremlin for simply citing Victoria Nuland. These people won't come on and be proven wrong, which is why I say if you sat down with them and here's the fascinating thing too, like you're sitting here saying, Texas is the wind state. Is what number one you said, right?
Yes, sir.
That's great news to many of these people on the left. Texas is doing a fantastic job in terms of renewable, but you've got some honest points to make. You need year-round energy to be available, and wind can't be all of that.
That's right.
But they don't want to hear it.
And we know that some of the elements in the wind energy system, especially if you're talking about batteries and solar panels and stuff, they hate nuclear. The left hates nuclear because they don't want know what to do with the waste, and they pretty much they killed Yucca Mountain, even though that was a great design. And so wind energy has waste. At some point in time, there's going to be something that's got to be done something with. Batteries are the same way. If you've ever had a car with a battery that needs to be replaced, guess what? It's going to be something done with it.
And it's really difficult to deal with these large, massive electric car batteries.
It is.
And it's also, where do they think the electricity comes from for these electric cars? The fascinating thing is, I really wish these people would take Energy Economics 101. The basic beginning, so they can understand things like energy return on energy invested. They can understand the root of all energy and the U.S. and human economy. I watched this really great documentary, and it starts off in tribal caveman era, and it said the first form of energy utilized by man was man's own energy, using his own arms to run, to hunt, and then we started using tools and leverage. Then we started, at some point, lumber, burning wood, and burning wood allowed us to do things. Then we had coal. Then, we apply coal to, say, steam for motion.
Develop the wheel in order to move things.
Right. Mm-hmm. It was talking about, I'm sorry, I skipped over animals. Yeah. So humans use their own hands. Then they started using basic tools for leverage, but then they used animal energy. Cows could eat, oxen could eat grass and then pull something they couldn't pull. Eventually, they figured out how to burn, carbon, then eventually coal. Then eventually we discovered petroleum, which was massively energy dense, nuclear energy. And so we're constantly trying to find ways to maximize energy output with minimal energy input. And that's energy return on energy invested, which they don't understand any of these concepts.
And especially the investment part of it. When you've got a federal government that's so anti-fossil fuel, making it so hard for people to invest money. And I don't care whether it's a windmill farm, whether it's a nuclear facility, whether it's a gas-fired power plant. When you've got to jump through all the hoops and all the regulations, and it takes 2 or 3 years to plan something, they're making it hard to build energy. And you've got China out there, it depends on whose numbers you're using, making a coal plant a week, a month, whatever it is.
I don't know if you know the answer, but is nuclear has the highest energy return on energy invested? Is it nuclear? Might be petroleum.
It's going to depend on the market value at any given point in time. Right.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that for nuclear, to go in and put in a nuclear system and a facility, and it's billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, so the payback's going to stretch way out. And when you're an investor and you're looking at those things, and the federal government's making it extremely hard for you on the front end to even get a permit, let's just say in 2 years, you go, I don't want to necessarily wait that long.
I should probably give an understanding of, what is it, EROEI or whatever, for people who don't understand. It's basically fracking for a long time was what produced less energy than we would put into it. It was not worth producing. The investment wouldn't come back out of it. And then once gas prices started to become more higher and higher, all of a sudden we could put in the energy to get energy back. So what this means is, if you spend, let's do it by hours. It's a really easy way to understand it. If it takes you 100 hours to get a wind turbine up, but that wind turbine can only produce 101 hours of energy, it's a very, very weak return on building this massive structure. So you're using petroleum energy to get back even one. I think a lot of these renewables actually have a negative return. So we're having solar installed at our new facility, and we're looking at, I think it's 30 or 40 years before we generate enough energy to cover the energy required to make the panels and the batteries. So we use oil to run the machines that make the solar and the batteries, and that system cannot generate more energy than the oil that was put into it. It's convenient for us that if the power goes out, we will have backup power. It's convenient for us that we can generate our own power on a sunny day, but it takes oil energy to give us that convenience. Hopefully in the future, we're at a point where we can use wind energy to charge electric vehicles and factories to build more wind energy, but that's the one of the big challenges we face.
Well, think about it. All the stuff that was built in that scenario you just laid out. If you're building a facility and they're bringing huge solar panels, it's going to be carried by a diesel truck that uses diesel.
Maybe we'll do Cybertruck. Maybe we'll have the Elon Musk deliver by Cybertruck powered by solar panels. But certainly we're decades away from anything like that.
I was going to say that's going to be,
Yeah.
I'll be long gone by then.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we're going to miss you.
I do think that the challenge is that just oil is so massively energy dense, which provides a great opportunity. The discovery and implementation of oil, you can see it in human population expansion. It was just massive.
Well, here's the other thing too, Tim. We have been good and look, fossil fuel in and of itself is not the enemy. We can produce energy cleanly from fossil fuel. In fact, I was on the Environmental Reg Committee in the state of Texas, I mentioned earlier, and we oversaw a lot of the emissions in Texas. We have our own facility, TCERQ, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality in Texas. It's the second largest environmental regulatory agency in the country, second only to the EPA. And we do a good job of monitoring our things in Texas. We were reducing emissions. When we kill if the left gets their way and they kill fossil fuel, I'm sure that when we kill our fossil fuel industry, then China's going to follow suit, India's going to follow suit, and Mexico's going to follow suit, Russia's going to follow suit. No. We can produce energy cleanly, and China doesn't produce energy as cleanly as we do. Russia doesn't do it. India doesn't do it. Mexico doesn't do it. They're major polluters. And so why are we seeking to kill our energy industry over here when it'd be less than, I forget what the figure is, less than 1/100th of a percent of all the emissions in the world? No, we need to be doing it as cleanly as we can, and it's national security, it's domestic security, it's economic security, and it's family security, quite frankly, because as you pointed out, they've got to be able to drive cars, go to the grocery store.
That's right. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.